Hey class, it's Professor Nick Sinsky, UNC Charlotte, and this is a tutorial for digital fundamentals. Me talking about creating your own line weights in Autocad. And to make your own line weights, the place you want to go is to the plot style table. And there's different ways that you can access it, but I'm going to show you one way. Let's assume you have your drawings already in your file, but this will work anywhere. You can say plot, P-L-O-T. And this is fine. Go ahead and open up the plot dialog. And you can go to Edit Page Setup. And then going under Plot Style Table here, you're going to go New. Okay. You can also modify one of these by opening them, but I'm just going to go ahead and say New. And then this is going to load up the plot style table editor. And this is, in AutoCAD for PC, there's actually a separate application that you can launch from the Autodesk AutoCAD 2012 folder. So this is kind of simplified. On the PC, just open up the plot style table editor. On the Mac, this is a method you can use in the plot. So you have your plot styles, and the way that this works is basically that each color from 1 to 255 is basically a plot style. So when you draw a line with the color red in AutoCAD, like this color red, it will assign these attributes. If I draw with the color green, it'll assign these attributes. And right now, since I have a new file, these are all set up to the defaults. So what we're going to do is that we're going to set up a series of pens for ourselves, right? So imagine that each one of these colors is a different color cap on one of our, our technical pens. So I usually start with the brighter colors for the darkest lines because that just sets up a contrast for me on the dark background. So I usually do something like yellow. Or green being my heaviest weight, so I might go ahead and say that yellow is my heaviest weight. The color of it is going to be what it's going to plot at, and I don't want to plot yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to black. Okay, and then for the type, I'm going to say use the line type. That's fine. For the weight, here's the important part. So I'm going to go to my line weight, and I could assign it, a 1 millimeter, or if I think I'm going to need thicker lines, maybe a 1.2. Okay, so I'll just start with a 1.2. Again, you're going to have to test these out for yourself to see what you get, but that's what I'm going to get, like a 1.2 black. End style, I'm going to use whatever the object has. I'm going to let you define that in the drawing itself, but the color is going to be black, and it's going to be a certain line weight. Okay, I do that for different colors, so I go to green, and I want to make that black again, and the line weight is going to be 1.0. Okay, and so you go through, and you're going to be like assigning these colors as you go. So the next color in line, might be like magenta. So just whatever system you want to use for yourself to identify what those are. You're going to go ahead and set your weights up. So I typically do things in steps. So I go like a 1.2, 1.0, 7. 5, 3, and then maybe 18 and 13. You're going to have to, wade through that for yourself. But I wouldn't get too granular at first. I would make it so that there's a pretty fair jump from weight to weight. If you get your weights too thick, you won't be able to do double lines, and if you get your weights too thin, they're not going to read on the page. Okay, so you want to set your weights up using that kind of strategy. Another thing I want to point out, though, is that you can have a weight of something. Let's take, so this is a red, and this is kind of close to red. I can take this color 10, and I can actually make that red. And then I can set the line weight to be something like 0.7. And that's a great color. That's now going to work for diagramming. So if I make things my color 10, they're going to be a red 0.7. Okay, and you can do this with gray too. So I talked about grayscale being a way to make things look thinner, even though they're the same line weight. Take a gray, go to the colors, and you're going to want to go in here and probably this goes from 100 to 0. So I can make this like a 40%. Actually, that yeah, opposite. So 60, 80, there you go. So make that a lighter gray, let's say, or 75. Okay, and so now I've got a color for that, and then I can make that a line type that I'm sorry, a line weight that's again maybe a 0.5 or 0.7. So now I have two different 0.7s. I have a 0.7 that's black and a 0.7 that's gray, and if I use them both, the gray might look lighter. So you can have blacks. Reds are great for diagramming, as I say. Grays are useful for finer lines or for hatching. So you can make a series of pens for yourself, and then once you're done, you want to go ahead and say save as, and I'm going to call this like whatever you want to call it. So Nick's pens, and save it. So now I have this plot style named Nick's pens, CTV. And save and close. Now, whenever you have a layout, you need to make sure that under plot style table, you use the plot style table that you created. So Nick's pens CTB, and say yes, I want to assign it to all layouts. And then you have to check, make sure the box is checked to say print with layouts or print with plot styles. Okay. If you want to edit it, once you have one loaded, you can just click this little icon here, and that'll let you edit the plot style table. Okay. So now I've got my yellow, green. Okay. Do not check the box for scale line weights. You want the line weights to always be the same. As I said before, too, when you do your layout, the scale is always 1:1. Do not scale line weights. Okay, so all the other things apply when we were talking about layout before. Only now, you're loading in your plot style table and making sure that it says print with plot styles. Okay, so set your lines up for yourself. Like create a plot style for yourself. What you want to do, though, especially if you're on a school computer, but on your own laptop, this will be easier. But keep that plot style file handy. So if you go into, I cancel out of my page setup here. If you go into File, Plot Styles, okay, that will actually open up your plot styles folder, which is going to contain all these CTV files. And on the PC, there's a similar thing that says like find on my computer. You want to make sure you keep that CTV handy so that you can load it, especially if you're on another computer, okay? Because your files won't print if you open them up on a school computer and you don't have your plot style table. So keep this on a key drive somewhere, keep it on Dropbox, keep it with you. You can always drop it into the plot styles folder and then load it from there. Okay, so it's easy. If you have your own computer, I think all you guys do, that's probably not a problem, but it becomes problematic on a school computer when it does not have your plot style table. Okay, so keep that handy. Once you've got that, I'm going to go ahead and open up a file that I've got. So this is a set of lines that I already, a set of, this has a plot style table attached to it that I assigned to these colors. And what I did was I created a bunch of layers, and then I went in and I changed the color to the colors I'm using in my plot style table. And then I named the layers what the pens were, so I knew what I was getting. And I think for a lot of you guys, since this is new to you, using pens, this is a really good strategy. So yeah, a lot of the times when you're doing a drawing in Autocad, you'll have the layers be different things like columns or the lines on the site and things like that. But for now, maybe think about layers as pens, okay? Just until you get an idea of what color is what, and until you get a sense of how to make a drawing read. So create layers for each one of your pen styles that you created. Name it what the pen weight is. And in this case, I've actually got different colors. So I've got a 0.5 millimeter that's black, a 0.5 millimeter that's gray, a 0.5 millimeter that's 40% gray, a 0.7 that's red, a 1.2 that's red. Okay, so that's how I have my file kind of set up. And again, just to make a layer, click on the layer icon, and then when you've got it selected, go to layer properties, change the color of the layer to your color that your pen is, okay? And that's what's going to make it a certain line weight, okay? So just for the sake of argument here, I'm going to go ahead and make some lines just to show you what I mean. So copy, oops. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and because of the way I named these with the decimals, they're actually in order of thickness. So starting off, pick my line. That's gonna go on the 0.18 layer. Okay, next line, that's gonna go on the 0.3, 0.3 red, 0.5. 0.5 gray. Now these are the colors that I've selected, and they have meaning to me. But you want to make things meaningful to you. You'll notice that again. I use the brighter colors for the heavier weights, and for the grays and the reds, I used shades of gray and red. So this is gray. This is a pink because it's a lighter red. Okay, and then I have a darker. Pink. That's going to be my darker red, and then full red is the darkest, is the heaviest weight, and actually white in my case is the heaviest. Heaviest weight. Okay, I'll delete these. So I've got my weights kind of arranged, all the weights that I have here, and I think I'm missing one in there, but anyway, if I go to plot, and I'm just going to set this up to be an 11 by 17. So I'm using the Rico US letter. Go to edit, page setup. Actually, so the scale is going to be 1:1. What to print? I'm not making a layout for this. I'm just going to stick it on there. And edit page setup, and I want to go to the plot styles, and the ones that I have already set up are these UNCC styles. And let's see here, got all this. Not scale line weights, okay. Actually, I'm going to say fit to paper. Don't do that, but I'm going to just to make sure this fits. And then always preview. And it's going to preview, and I will see it, and look at that. So we've got the weights getting gradually larger. I think there's something like when you have a really fine weight, like this is not showing up too well on my monitor, but when you have a really fine weight, sometimes it doesn't resolve until you zoom in. So that should be a really fine weight. Anyway, so that just verifies you visually, like what's going on with your lines. Okay, so always do a test of this. Do a test on your printer to make sure that it's making what you want. So the first step for the assignment here is just generating this plot style table and testing it, and then going in to your CAD file and assigning the different lines to different layers so that you can code your drawing up. Okay. Normally, you'd kind of have all that stuff established, and you'd be assigning colors and you'd be assigning layers the whole time. But the order of this assignment's a bit different. I wanted you guys to do the measure drawings first, and then add the lines later. Okay. Okay. So all that looks fine, and if it was, I would go ahead and print that. But that's just a demo. So okay. So that's the first part of it. So just the first part about adding in line weights and putting those inside your drawing. And again, you may want to generate more weights than I have. For the assignment, I don't necessarily think that you need reds, but you might if you want to do some diagramming. So you don't have to do everything exactly the way I did it, but that's the principle. Okay. In the next part, I'm going to talk about how to add poche to your buildings. And then in the third part, I'm going to talk about how to add labels to your layouts. Okay, so I'll see you soon. In this part of the video, I'm going to talk about poche, about how to add poche to your drawings. And first things first, like this assumes that you have an enclosed shape. Like poche works like a bucket fill in Photoshop or like a live paint in Adobe Illustrator. You want to have lines that have their edges joined to form a contiguous shape that's closed. Okay, and you don't have to make a polyline and join the lines, but they do have to have edges that join. Okay, without that, you're not going to get a hatch. If your hatch is not working, you're going to want to go in and examine the joints between things, or perhaps make them into a polyline, and then use the tolerance to actually close the shapes for you. The tool that you use for poche, as I kind of mentioned, is a hatch. There's actually a tool called hatch. And poche might seem like different than a hatch because a hatch pattern is like a series of diagonal lines, or like a tartan pattern or something like that. But in fact, solid is also, like a solid fill is also considered a hatch in AutoCAD. And so again, the command to invoke this is a hatch, H-A-T-C-H, hatch. And the hatch tool used to be really difficult to use and kind of onerous. But recently it's gotten a lot better. In particular, in the Mac version, I feel like it works extremely well. It's very visual. You can see that when you load it, you get this beautiful like hatch menu that pops up, this hatch dialog, and the computer asks you to pick an internal point. And so what that means is click inside of the shape, and then AutoCAD will try to fill it for you with hatch. So click and look at that. So you get by default it's the 45-degree angle. You can you can change the hatch angle, by messing with the slider here, so that if you wanted perhaps like a 90-degree angle, I think it starts off, so maybe 45 is going to make it. So if you want it to be vertical, you can do that. You can do -45, make it horizontal. Okay, so that is really handy. You can also play with the scale of it. So it's at 1 scale. If I increase it, you can visually, and that's really nice. Depending on the scale of what you're going to print out, you may want to increase or decrease the density of it. So you get a nice visual feedback on that. I like that quite a bit. So that's kind of a basic, 45-degree hatch. You can change the hatch pattern by clicking on the swatcher. And then you can go in and you can scroll through, and there's different kinds. And some of these are like, there's like meshes, like brick patterns and things. So this is where you come up with all these different sorts of patterns that you see in all these architecture books. Okay, so hatches. This is really nice. You can also search for stuff, and that's actually where this comes into play. There's so many like hatches that are loaded here for different things. The one that we're really interested in, if you want to do poche in the sort of modern way, is just to say solid, like look for solid. And that's actually going to give you a solid fill. When you're done, just click the close button, and that gives you the poche. Okay. Actually, and what the color of the poche is dependent upon the layer that you put it on. Okay. And so, if you want a gray poche or something, you might go into and make a layer for it, and assign that layer a certain color. Okay, and then that will give you a gray poche, and that's actually what I did there. So I made a new layer and changed the color. You can also, so I can say hatch, and again I might go back to my kind of default hatch pattern. Escape that here. There you go. The wrong layer anyway. Okay, so poche layer. And so that actually shows you the different pattern. Oh, yeah, you know what? It's too dense. That'll teach me. Okay, so be really careful about that line scale. Thought I had a bug there. Okay, so I did that, and that's on the poche layer. You can see actually that the white layer, the outline is there, and then the poche is on a different layer. It's a different darkness. So this is actually how, if you had the lines for it, you can kind of create, like you kind of have the poche, but then you have the line, and so like the poche stops somewhere. See that? So you can always go in, and when you click on a hatch, you get the hatch dialog back. So you can always go back and mess with it if you feel like you didn't quite get it right. And you can also, if you click on something, you can use the eyedropper, and you can pick that color. I mean that same scale, the same hatch pattern, and the same layer. You can eyedropper that from something else. So that's really useful. So that's poche in a nutshell, and that's how you would render any kind of hatch pattern, like on your floor somewhere. And hatch works with islands, like I think you can kind of tell from what's in there. So if I say hatch, I can go in and it's going to give me that island, and so it's not going to show up there. Then I can go in and I might do my kitchen floor or something that's in my building. So anyway, that's how hatch works in AutoCAD for Mac. It's fairly similar in PC. I think there's a pop-up dialog as well. So hatch is the tool that we want to use to render poche in our drawings. Remembering that poche is optional, but for some projects it makes a lot of sense. Really bring out contrast in it. You can also use this for the site plan, as I showed you in lecture today. So play around with that. Bring any questions you have to me on Tuesday. I'll see you for part 3. So for this last part, I just want to briefly talk about how to add labels to your layouts. So right now I'm in layout view, which is what we've talked about before. So I was in model space, and I've got my drawings, all kind of laid out, and then I went into layout, and I arranged the different viewports to each other. Got some guidelines in here, and things are aligned with each other, and I've got a bunch of drawings here that are at like quarter scale, and a bunch of drawings, well, 2 drawings here that are at half-inch scale. And so I want to label what they are, and I want to label what the scales are. Okay, and it's pretty like rudimentary. You don't need to get really fancy with your labels. I do think, though, honestly, this seems more intuitive in Adobe Illustrator, but you can do it in AutoCAD, and adding things to layouts in AutoCAD is something you need to learn how to do. The tools in AutoCAD for aligning things and for measuring things like that are much more accurate than they are in Adobe Illustrator. They're very much easier to use. So working with text isn't as easy, but arranging it as a compositional element seems to be easier inside AutoCAD. So the tool that you're going to use is the text tool. So you can go up and you can in AutoCAD say draw text, and what we're going to do is multi-line text. And there's lots of different techniques for drawing this. I'm just going to kind of freehand it. I have this kind of box aligned. I have an offset line. So I'm going to go ahead and start from one corner, and then roughly turn off snaps here. And that's going to create a box that I'm going to type text in, okay? And so you see the text editor box comes up. So just for now, I'm going to type in plan. And you can see actually the text here, it's really small. I'm going to select it, and now I'm using the scale. Actually is the scale of the layout. So if I say that I want that text to be a 1/4 inch, that's actually the size that it's going to be. Okay, and you can change the font by going into this. So you open up the spill out, and I can say I want, let's say, Helvetica. Okay. And the colors by layer. You can do the alignment here. I'm going to align it left by default. And then just hit save. And sometimes the feedback doesn't happen until after you execute it. So now it says, plan. Now, when you click on something, you can move it as an element. If you double click on it, then you get the dialog back. So let's say I want to bold it. And hit save again. Now, I have a layer called layout, and it doesn't print. I have this thing that's locked. That's the layer that I use for my viewports and for my guidelines on the layout. I don't want these to print. Okay. But I do want my labels to print. So what I need to do is put them on a layer that will print. So I'm going to pick my label and change the layer to 0, which is black. And so now it's actually going to say, plan. And you can play with the scale of this if you like. I mean, this is what's gonna. This is a 24 by 36, or 36 by 24. So I've kind of made the calculation, based on the size of the paper, based on the scale of the drawings, like what size my labels want to be, and that's up to you how you want to do that. So double click that, and again you can bold it, things like that. I think it covers most of the settings for that. So what I want to do with that is I can go ahead and copy this around, and using snaps. And so you kind of want things to be roughly spaced the same. And I've already got guidelines to help me do that. Actually, it doesn't seem very good. So I'm going to go ahead and pick all these and just bump them down a little bit. I want the labels to be consistent in the way that they're used and how they relate to the other drawings. So that's why copying it like this makes sense. So then now that I've done that, I can go in and I can edit these. Say roof plan. Go ahead and say south elevation. Section. And that's actually section A. If you look, I've already kind of labeled these on the drawing. Section A. Section B. And this last one is going to be interior elevation. If you run out of space, you can always pull the column width, and that'll allow that to go over. Goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Make sure that your spelling is correct. You might want to copy paste that or just have someone proof it. So I've got those basic things. And the last thing I want to do for this layout is add a scale to it. So I'm going to say copy. I'm going to copy this over. And you can see that box. Double click this, and I'm actually going to change the alignment to justify right. And then I want to go in and I want to say scale equals 1/4 inch to 1 foot. And I'm going to change this to not bold and 1/8. It didn't work the way I wanted it to. There we go. I'm going to keep it bold, but I'm going to keep it small. And I don't know if I like the way that looks, but it's equals to. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and move this to there. And guys, I'm kind of eyeballing this. Now, you don't need to put the scale for all your drawings. I think it's clear that if this is 1/4 inch, this is off of that, that's 1/4 inch, that's 1/4 inch, and yeah, that's 1/4 inch. Okay, so one of these will do you. Should work pretty well. Let's just go ahead and copy this over, and then we'll just change it here to 1/2 inch to 1 foot. And again, the conventions of how you do this kind of vary, but whether it's a equals or colon or something like that. But so that's really, basic. And again, you want to make sure that all those are on a layer that'll print. Make sure that, using your plot style tables that they'll the line weights going to be like sufficient for these. You could add an underline or something. I don't want to add any additional lines though. I think this is fine. You might decide you want to go in and adjust the size of these. That's also fine. You can also adjust it if you go to the text here. I could click all these since they're all the same, and go into text height, and I could say like, let's see, it's 2/8. I could say 3/16 or something. Make it slightly smaller. Okay, so you can do that too. You really have to you have to print these. You have to examine them in order to get the right text scale. But you don't want it to dominate the composition. You just want it to be clear. You want it to be consistent, and you want it to be the right size in your composition. And then, of course, you always go and test it. So I can say plot. And then say preview. There you go. So just get a sense of how that's going to work. So I got a bug in my Acrobat, but you get the idea. So you want to test that out. You definitely want to try to plot it and look at the size of that. I actually noticed I have kind of an issue with the spacing between these and the other pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. So you can use your guidelines to give you the right spacing. I might go in and again, those lines don't print, but so just be consistent with the way you apply it. Be efficient, and then make sure that it's legible when you print. So you can design your fonts however you want, like the size however you want. If you wanted to add some kind of embellishment, that's fine. But that's a general principle for adding labeling and scale in your layout in Autocad. Okay. As always, if you have questions, let me know. Send me an email with a graphic attachment, or come find me outside of class. Good luck. I'll talk to you soon.